The motorcycle's engine roared through the cold air, like thunder breaking the silence of a forgotten town. The rider, tall, broad, and shadowed by the weight of years gone wrong, hadn't been here in half a decade. Dust clung to his boots, road grime smeared across his black leather vest. And yet, underneath all that grit, his heart raced with something he hadn't felt in years. Fear. Not the kind that came from bar fights or police sirens. This was the fear of facing someone you've hurt, someone who once loved you unconditionally. Before we dive into this powerful, heart-touching story, don't forget to hit that like button, leave your thoughts in the comments, and subscribe to Kindness Kindora, where every story reminds us that kindness still has the power to change everything. Jackson Cole hadn't seen his mother since the night he left town, the night the world he knew burned behind him in the rear-view mirror. 5 years of exile, of running from the ghosts he created, had carved new lines on his face. Every mile on the open road had been an attempt to escape one thing: guilt. He had once been the small-town rebel, a young man who thought the world owed him something. His father's death in a factory accident broke the fragile family that had kept him grounded. His mother, Ruth, worked herself into exhaustion trying to keep them afloat, waiting tables at a local diner to pay the bills. Jackson remembered yelling at her, blaming her for everything, for not saving their home, for not being stronger. And when she asked him to stay to just talk, he slammed the door and roared away on his motorcycle into the night. He never came back. Until now. The road leading into Ashfield looked smaller than he remembered, quieter too. Storefronts he once vandalized were now empty. The same neon diner sign still flickered at the end of Main Street. Miller's Diner. That sign had been his mother's workplace for 20 years. He stopped his bike just outside. The tires, crunching over gravel, the air heavy with rain and memory. Inside, the diner smelled the same: coffee, fried eggs, and nostalgia. Chrome counters gleamed beneath fluorescent lights, and yellow booths lined the walls like old friends. Jackson hesitated at the door, dripping from the rain, his gloved hand still gripping his helmet. He scanned the room, eyes catching faces of strangers, until he saw her. Ruth Cole, his mother. She stood behind a booth, wiping down a table with slow, careful hands. Her pink uniform was neatly pressed, her silver hair tucked under a diner cap. She looked smaller now, frailer, but her posture was the same: gentle, steady, enduring. Jackson's throat tightened. He hadn't realized how much he'd missed her voice, her scent, her warmth. Until this moment, when she didn't even know he was watching. He wanted to speak, to call out, "Mom," but years of pride chained his voice. Then a harsh voice sliced through the quiet, clinking of dishes. "Hey, lady." Jackson's gaze snapped toward a man in a navy vest and tie. Mid-40s, sharp face, arrogance dripping from his every word. The man was pointing at Ruth, his finger stabbing the air like a knife. "You missed a spot." The man barked, his tone full of disdain. "You people can't even do your job right. Look at this mess." Ruth flinched, then quietly nodded, bending slightly to wipe the table again. "I'm sorry, sir. I'll take care of it right away." Jackson's stomach turned. His mother, the woman who raised him with nothing but dignity and strength, was being talked down to like she was worthless. The man slammed his hand on the table again. "Sorry doesn't clean it faster, does it?" he sneered. The diner went silent. Every customer turned to look. Jackson's hands curled into fists at his sides, veins standing out against his tattooed arms. His jaw clenched so tight it hurt. He took a step forward, but before he could move further, the diner door swung open behind him. The wind carried the sound of heavy boots and clinking chains. 3 men stepped in, rough-looking, wearing black leather vests, patched with the words "Iron Vultures." They were his brothers from the road, the only family he'd had for 5 years. The man at the table looked over, clearly startled by their sudden presence. The lead biker, Jackson, walked forward, the others spreading behind him. The air in the diner thickened with tension. The businessman's arrogance faltered as the bikers advanced, the click of their boots echoing on the tiled floor. Jackson stopped a few feet from the table. His gaze shifted from the frightened man to his mother. "Ruth Cole," he said softly. She looked up, blinking in confusion. "Yes?" Her eyes studied him for a long moment, and then realization. Her breath hitched, her lips trembling. "Jackson?" His heart broke hearing his name from her lips again. He nodded slowly. "It's me, Mom." Tears welled in her eyes. Her cleaning rag slipped from her fingers and fell onto the floor. She stepped closer, hands shaking, as if afraid that if she touched him, he'd disappear again. "You came back. I should have never left," Jackson whispered, his voice hoarse. "I'm sorry, Mom. For everything I said. For everything I wasn't. The man in the vest tried to stand up, muttering something about not wanting trouble. But Jackson didn't even look at him. He just said quietly, "You talk to her like that again, and you'll be picking your teeth out of the floor." The man froze, pale as chalk, before grabbing his coat and rushing out the door. The rest of the diner stayed quiet, the air heavy with emotion. Ruth's tears finally fell as she reached out, pulling Jackson into her arms. "You're really here," she whispered, her voice breaking. "I prayed every night that you'd come home safe." Jackson's arms wrapped around her tightly, the biker vest pressing against her soft uniform. "I'm home, Mom," he said, his voice shaking. "I'm home now." Later that night, after the diner had closed, they sat together in a booth by the window. The rain had stopped, leaving the streets shining under the dim lights outside. Ruth poured him a cup of coffee, just like she used to. "You still take it black?" she said, smiling through tears. "Guess some things never change," he replied, chuckling softly. But his eyes were full of remorse. "Mom, you shouldn't be working this hard. You deserve better?" She shook her head gently. "Work keeps me busy, keeps me from thinking too much about what I've lost." Jackson lowered his gaze. "You didn't lose me," he said quietly. "I was lost. But I found my way back." Ruth reached across the table, placing her hand over his. "Then that's all that matters." For the first time in years, Jackson smiled, not the forced, hollow grin he wore on the road, but a real, honest smile that reached his eyes. Before we close this story, if this moment touched your heart, don't forget to like this video, share your thoughts below, and subscribe to Kindness Kindora, where real stories of forgiveness and love come to life. Weeks passed. Jackson stayed in town helping Ruth at the diner. He repaired the old neon sign outside, fixed tables, and even started cooking alongside her. The town that once feared him now saw a different man. Not a rebel, but a son trying to make amends. Every morning as the sun rose, Jackson would stand beside his mother at the diner counter. She'd pour him coffee, he'd wipe down tables, and together they'd serve the same people who once whispered about him. He didn't care about his past anymore. The road had taught him plenty, but coming home taught him everything. Because forgiveness isn't found at the end of the highway. It's found in the quiet diner, in the smile of a mother who never stopped waiting, and in the heart of a son who finally learned what it means to come home. No matter how far you've gone or how many mistakes you've made, it's never too late to return to the people who loved you first and never stopped believing in you. Forgiveness isn't weakness. It's the road that leads you back to peace. Because sometimes home isn't a place. It's a person. And sometimes that person never stopped waiting.